Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So this video I'm gonna talk about a game where it's like so hyped right now. It's Where Winds Meet. It's kind of hard for me to say that name. So anyway, I only played this game for about like 10 hours. I know I'm so slow comparing with so many other heavy players, but I'm like a mom with 2 children and I work, so this is the speed I can have. But anyway, even though I only played 10 hours, I have a lot to say about this game. I'm not gonna focus on the review of the game because I know a lot of YouTubers already have a heavy analysis about the graphics, combat system, music. They're all so good. All these videos has tons of views. I'm totally not jealous. So anyway, this time, this video, I'm gonna mention something totally different. Maybe at least a little bit different. I'm gonna talk about how this game could actually impact the whole gaming industry. I'm not a game developing expert, this is just from a perspective of a video game player. Well, since this game is made in China, so I'm gonna start it from a Chinese developing perspective. A Chinese game has a similar stereotype of basically anything made in China. It's either low quality or has like a lot of plagiarism in it, and they probably heavily rely on pay-to-win system. It's kind of greedy. But when Black Myth Wukong came and then it was so successful and people start to realize, okay, some companies in China actually have the ability to make a game that is like so solid to compete with other games and have been the solid content for Game of the Year. But you could think that, but some people think that maybe that's just an outlier, you know, because so far there's only one game that stands out. And that's why when Wuxia Fallen Feathers came out, people have a very high expectation of it. But as we all know, this game was okay. It was good. It's like a 7 out of 10-ish game, but it's totally not meet the expectation of what people think it could be. So when Where Winds Meet came, and it proves that how solid it was and it's how successful it could be, and now it finally makes people realize game science is not just an outlier. The whole gaming industry level is improved in China, and you could actually expect so much more. So currently, the gaming industry is still dominated by American companies and Japanese companies. They all have like very long histories of their technologies and IP influence. But I think you could see in the future, China could be the 3rd influencer or player in the industry. You could see like Japan, US, China competition in the future, kind of like PS5, Xbox, and Nintendo competition. Another thing I would like to mention is about wuxia culture. I remember in one of Asmongold's video, he was like discussing with the chat, asking like, well, if this game was actually a Japanese culture-based samurai type of game, would you be more interested? The answer is absolutely yes. And not that many people know about wuxia culture because wuxia is not as exposed as samurais and that type of culture like in anime, movies, TV shows, and video games. That's why this game is very important to Chinese culture, because it actually brings this wuxia world or wuxia culture to life, to the international players. A lot of people just start to learn about what wuxia is. It's kind of like based on realistic kung fu thing, but kind of add a bit of fantasy elements in it, like you could fly, right? And you can walk on water. It's definitely not realistic, but it's definitely different from like Final Fantasy or any like magical stuff. No, not at all. So for me, I usually like to compare wuxia culture with American Westworld cowboyish culture. It's kind of both like a world not based on law and order. It's kind of like jungleism and full of danger, romance, and heroism. So a lot of people say the Where Winds Meet is like a wuxia GTA or wuxia Skyrim because they kind of both have this living, breathing, open world vibe. I agree, but for me, I think a closer comparison should be Red Dead Redemption because you know what I mean. So I generally believe that After this game, wuxia culture can finally stand shoulder to shoulder with samurai culture, American Westworld culture, European medieval magical culture as a recognizable global genre. And that's great for both Chinese and non-Chinese players. For Chinese players, we're so happy to see that our culture get exposed. And for non-Chinese players, it's great everybody get to experience something totally brand new. And the last thing I want to mention about, it's like a revolutionary thing as a gaming business model. So as we all know, game basically can be categorized into two things. One is single player game, which is heavily based on single player experience. And the other is online game, which is mostly focused on like social activities. So for me, I barely play any online games because for me it's like too much social stress. It's not really a game anymore, it's just a social activity. You know, it's stressful, I'm an introvert. But anyway, single player games are getting more and more expensive to make, and it's riskier and riskier, and players have to wait longer and longer time for like good quality AAA game. And it's becoming more and more expensive. So it's kind of like risky for both players and producers. And that's why online game has an advantage here. It's kind of like free to play, but it lures you in to pay later. And it reduces the stress and pressure for the investors and producers, and players get to play some game for free in the beginning, and that's great. It seems to be win-win, but the trade-off is, like I said before, it's the gaming experience, like daily tasks, weekly tasks, limited edition seasonal quest, and like logging bonus. All these things just like make gaming feel like going to work. You're just checking things off the list. You don't feel fun of doing things repetitively. But this is why this game is so special. They did this thing so smart. It combined the single player experience with the MMORPG online game mechanics. It lures more games in, release the pressure and stress and risk of the producer, and also make the gamers enjoy more. So for me, I'm mostly a single game player. If I want, I can just play this game single player. I don't have to feel like left out, or I don't have to feel like getting punished for not interact with other players enough. And sometimes I occasionally want to participate with some seasonal multiplayer quests. That's fine. I can enjoy a little bit, and when I feel like I'm done, I can just withdraw immediately with no like hesitations or punishment. I can do it anytime, there's no pressure. And so far I didn't spend any money on it. And I feel fine. I feel there's so much more to explore without paying money. And I'm totally enjoying it with paying 0 cent, 0 dime on this game. And what I know people say you only play 10 hours. Usually this type of game make you feel like generous in the beginning. But when you progress further, when you get into the game deeper, they're gonna like kind of force you to pay to keep playing this game. I understand, but I feel like so far I enjoy this game so much, and I've paid 0 dime on this game. If the amount of money I have to pay to keep moving on is fair, I would like to pay for the game. It's kind of like I play first and pay later mechanics, you know. I'm totally fine with it, because I think this game is no less than any other $60-$70 AAA action game. As long as the money I have to pay for this game to keep moving on is less than that amount, I think it's totally worth it. And some people might say this game is not the first game that uses hybrid model that combines single player experience with online player experience. Like Animal Crossing, for example, you got to play as a single player game, and you can also treat it as like a social platform to connect with your friends. Or Death Stranding, you can play as like a solo game, or you could just actually cooperate with other people all over the world. But think about these games, they're kind of expensive game for the base game already. But where wins me? It is actually truly free. And you could also say, like there are other games like that before. True. For example, before this game, I played a similar mechanics game which is called Infinity Nigi, which is you play as a girl exploring around this open world to collect materials to craft different outfits and costumes and apparel stuff. And then you can go through the main quest, or you could just you could choose to hang out and compete with people online. It's pretty similar mechanics. But to be honest, this dressing up game is such a small niche. You can't take it as like an industrial example to learn anything from it because the influence is so limited. But this game where wins meet, it's like heavy combat-based action RPG. The market is huge. The impact is huge. So I do think that this game could totally raise a question to the whole industry. Maybe in the future, all high-budget AAA games should be launched as free-to-play online games. It doesn't have to launch the whole thing all at once. It could be launched chapter by chapter, so both players and producers get something they want. Like gamers like to play game with lower price, and producers can release some stress of production. So what do you think? Do you think that there will be more single-player AAA game launched as free-to-play titles with optional online features? Do you think that's a sustainable model for all future games? I would like to see your comments below. Anyway, in conclusion, I do think this game could be treated as a milestone of the industry. As for Chinese gaming development, it's a proof of the industry maturity. For global gamers, it brings a fresh of air of a new type of culture. As for the gaming industry model, it introduced a new model that everybody can copy, and maybe it will change the whole gaming experience in the future for all the players. And for creators everywhere, it's a proof that culture has no boundary. A generally good quality game can break through prejudice. So, years from now, when people look back on this era of gaming, I'm pretty sure Where Wins Me will be remembered as a turning point. So if you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe, like, comments, share, and I would like to see how you feel about this game or what you think about the whole gaming industry. And we'll see you next time.